All right. Welcome everybody to USCA's Facts Only Friday. We're very excited to welcome two congressional champions for the U.S. livestock industry. You might remember them from your own home states. We've got Senator Jon Tester from Big Sandy, Montana, and Senator Mike Rounds of Fort Pierre, South Dakota. Now, as we wait for more folks to tune in, I just really wanted to say thank you to both of you from the U.S. Cattlemen's Association for all your work on any number of issues: truth in labeling, marketing and competition reform, livestock hauling concerns, and so much more. Anytime the cattle industry is looking for a voice in Washington, D.C., we know we can count on you and your team to bring forth, solutions like the New Markets for State Inspected Meat and Poultry Act, like the Transporting Livestock Across America Safely Act, and of course, everybody's current favorite, the 5014 or spot market bill. So thank you both for doing that, and we're very much looking forward to hearing some more on all of those pieces of legislation. But we've got some more folks tuning in even now. Thank you all for joining. As you know, this is Facts Only Friday, so we'll leave some time for questions at the end of the broadcast. So if you've got those questions, drop them in the comments section now. But without further ado, Senator Tester, it's been a very challenging year for cattle producers. Why don't you walk us through what it's like navigating COVID-19, both in your role in the U.S. Senate and, for Montana producers?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me and Senator Rounds to speak to you all today. It's always a pleasure to visit with folks who have their hands in the dirt or other places, and I just want to say this is a real pleasure. And I also want to tell you that I really appreciate the work of the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. I know Peterson isn't on this call, but Jess Peterson has been great to work with, and he's done a lot of work in Montana across the country. I also want to say that U.S. Cattlemen's Association is special to me because it actually represents cattlemen, represents the folks on the ground, the folks out there that are raising cattle. And I just want to thank you all very, very much. Your agenda is very it's very positive from my perspective. It's something that I believe in personally, and so it's pretty easy to get things like truth in labeling, because I don't think meat should come out of a damn laboratory. It comes out of a cow, and the truth is it's the same thing with livestock hauling. A lot of folks don't understand you just can't park a truck on the side of the road. It's got cows in it and take a nap. You gotta get those cows to their destination, or you got problems. And thanks for being in family farm agriculture. As many of you know, my wife and I still farm the same land that my grandparents homesteaded, and quite frankly, it's in my blood. And family farm agriculture feeds the world. It's the backbone of the country, and it's more than a job. It's a way of life, and I just want to thank you for that. For the pandemic, we've seen it. Look, we're going to talk about a lot of these things as this half hour goes on, but the truth is that if the pandemic has shown us anything, is that when you have consolidation in anything, I don't care if it's energy, medicine, it doesn't matter. In this case, it's agriculture. In this case, it's processing cattle or hogs. And when you have consolidation, when something goes wrong, things go to hell, and it goes to hell fast. And I will tell you that we saw that in South Dakota with the hog plant that got COVID in it, and Senator Rounds may talk about that. But the truth is we need to do some things to inject more capitalism into our marketplace. You guys know the statistics. There's 3 or 4 or 5 companies at the most that control about 80% of the beef in this country. That's not competition. That's not capitalism. Doesn't work under those circumstances. So it's been on one hand, the COVID thing has been very, very challenging. On the other hand, it's pointed out where we need to make some changes in our food chain. But I will also tell you this: for people who are raising cows and the small and medium-sized feeders, it's more than just COVID, man. We got some problems. We got a Packers and Stockyards Act in this country that needs to be enforced. And if we enforced it, a lot of the bills that I've got and the bills that Rounds has got that we're pushing, we wouldn't have to do them, because quite frankly, it would take away the problem that are out there. Because I'm going to tell you this, and it goes for the folks on this call, and it goes for a whole hell of a lot more of them. You guys aren't looking for a handout. You're just looking for an even playing field. And if we have an even playing field, then you can survive and you can push that ranch on down to your kids, and it won't put you out of business. But I'm going to tell you what a person who runs an auction yard here in the state of Montana told me about 3 months ago. He said, if Congress doesn't act and do some of the things that Senator Rounds and I are sponsoring, some of them together, he said, things are going to change in cow-calf production, and it's not going to be good. And it's not going to be good for the consumers. It's not going to be good for rural America. It's not going to be good for the country. So I appreciate what you guys do. I look forward to visiting with you some more during this time, and I look forward to visiting with you some more going forward. The fact is there are some things out there we have to do. Otherwise, this country is going to change, and it's not going to change for the better. With that, I'll kick it back to you, and then hopefully the Senator Rounds.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm sure if we were in person, you'd see a lot of heads nodding in the audience. We've got a lot of great comments already coming in. Senator Rounds, earlier this year, you introduced or unveiled a three-prong approach to addressing the cattle market crisis. One of those prongs is urging the Department of Justice to investigate the big four meat packers. Another is with Senator Tester introducing a resolution on country of origin labeling, and then introducing legislation to help producers offset some of those COVID-19 losses. So where do we stand on some of those priorities as we look towards the rest of the year?
Well, first of all, thanks. And I do appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. And John's been a darn good partner on working through a lot of these issues. In the Senate, nothing moves forward unless you've got bipartisan support for something. And so you need to set aside the partisan differences. And I think in this particular case, we've worked on a number of issues together. John works on a lot of veterans issues. We're both on the Veterans Affairs Committee. And what we found is that we've got a lot in common in terms of the rural roots and the rural backgrounds and the need to kind of stick together on a lot of these issues. And that's when you start to get results. And I'll also share with you, I think what John talks about in terms of staying in touch, it's the roots that we've got. My family comes from farming backgrounds, and I've got a brother-in-law that sells registered Charolais over by Lake Preston, South Dakota. Another brother-in-law that's got a commercial herd. A stepbrother, Mark Scarborough, who's on the Cheyenne River. He's got a nice spread up there, and he's got a cow-calf operation up there, and they've been there for 3 generations. And so we get it. We hear about it on a regular basis, and we want this to work for our cow-calf operators as well. The U.S. Cattlemen's Association really has been kind of the voice of reason in this whole process, and the more we can do to get other folks to join in with you, it would be great. I first really kind of started learning a lot about your association through Justin Tupper, runs the St. Ange sale barn up there at St. Ange. Justin's been great to be kind of an advisor to us, and I've really appreciated that. Pat Trask even shows up and will once in a while give us a little bit of advice, and he's been very helpful in trying to focus, once again, some of the real major needs out there in the western part of South Dakota for us. Let me just share with you just a couple of thoughts, and I think John did a great job of sharing with you some of the challenges we've got that are out there. I think we have to stay focused on a series of items and not let go. One of the things that we started with, the Packers Act, look, it's 100 years old, and it would still work if it's properly enforced. But we were just frustrated because I know that there's been other investigations through the Department of Ag, but nothing ever goes anyplace. So we put together a letter this year asking the Department of Justice to get involved, and how quickly things change. When we started, we could get 4 of us that would sign the letter asking the Department of Justice to open up and to actually look at whether or not there was antitrust activity in the pricing of live cattle. Then President Trump jumped on board with us, and within a month after that, we had 18 members of the United States Senate who are now signed on to a letter asking the Justice Department. There is an investigation going on, and my letter to them simply said, look, investigate this. If you do not find evidence of antitrust activity, then what do we have to do to fix our laws because if there's no trust activity going on, it's still not working for our cattle producers. So we're going to have to change the laws. We haven't gotten a response back, but we know that there's an investigation going on. We're not going to let it stop. We're going to continue to push this. They did look at the poultry industry, and they actually found some antitrust activity. So at least this Justice Department is prepared to take that and to look at it. We don't want to quit on it, but most certainly I think that's a very important part of this whole process. In addition to that, I agree with John. When we start talking about having truth in lending, well, we should have truth in processing too. And John's right. Look, we got 4 packers that control 82% of the market. Even back when the antitrust laws were first put in place, 4 packers only controlled like 50% of the market. So it's time that we get on this thing and we actually address some of these issues. So I think that's not the other thing that really bothers me, and this is one where consumers should be right with us on it. Why in the world should we have foreign processors or foreign producers bringing their product into this country and having packers here unpack it? In other words, it comes in as boxed beef, bring it in here, turn around and repackage it. And because they repackage it, our Department of Ag says it now can have a voluntary label of product of the USA on it. Now, if that isn't false advertising, I don't know what is. But I mean, I mean that just irritates the hell out of me, and I think it does John too. And that's got to stop. So we sent a letter to the Department of Ag saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" You know what they said? Six months ago, they said, "Yeah, it's a problem. We really ought to fix it." Hasn't been fixed yet. So we've got legislation in to fix it that says it ought to be born in the U.S. It ought to be fed in the U.S. It ought to be processed in the U.S. Then you can call it a voluntary product of the USA. But that's the kind of stuff we've got. And now I'm going to give you one more piece that just bothers the heck out of me. Why can't we sell our beef products, if it's processed in South Dakota, at a state licensed facility that by law, by federal law, has to be equal to or better in terms of safety than a federal beef inspection plant? Why can't we sell that across the state line? Because if we could, think about what happens to a whole lot of these small guys that can start to grow. So I ran that up the flagpole. I actually went back out and said, I'm going to do a hotline. John and I know what a hotline is. It's where you send out a message saying, hey, I want to pass this thing out. Where's my objections at? You know what we found out? Yeah, I got objections on it, all right. But major people that work in the food industry in the United States, they don't like that idea. They don't want the competition. They said, well, if we've got to have federal inspections, you little guys ought to have the same thing. And we're going to work our way through that, and we're going to call them on it. But the only way we're going to get this fixed is to stay on it and not let it go. I'm probably going on longer than what I should. We agree. It is time for mandatory country of origin labeling. It absolutely is. I didn't think that a couple years ago. I do now, because it's the only way we're going to get this thing fixed. And if we do it as a nation, if we do it across the country, we can't do it state by state. We got to do it as a country. It's got to happen. But the only way we can make it happen, I think, we have to have the administration commit to actually putting that in to the negotiations in any trade agreements we do. Mandatory country of origin labeling, and it's time to get it done. Transparency bill that we've got right now that Chuck Grassley's been a champion of, it'll move us in the right direction. We'll get some price transparency in there. But all of these items need to be focused on. We got to continue to push forward.
Absolutely. No, and you must have been watching the comments, because we have a few questions already on MCool. So thank you for your comments on that. And, you know, we're just so thankful to both of you for breaking through some of those barriers as we look to increasing, you know, processing capacity for independent processors. USCA just started our own task force on that issue, and we've really enjoyed working with your staff, with your state veterinarian, Senator Rounds, Dr. Dustin Odekoven's
yes.
champion for that. And so I guess now we'll go to questions. We've got just a few minutes left with both of you. Again, we'll end at the top of the hour here and let everybody go about with the rest of their Friday. But Our first question comes from Andrea Marks, who is actually on our transportation committee, and she asks, considering that livestock transporters have been without hours of service since March 2020, how can we use the outcomes of this time to support the Transporting Livestock Across America Safely Act?
John, you kind of started that discussion. Do you want to start on that?
Yeah. I sure do. And with any doggone politician, and I still consider myself a farmer first, but I'll just tell you that Leah, we have done some bills, we've introduced some bills. We haven't broken down the barn yet. We're going to break down the barn when we get these damn things passed and get them to the president's desk, so that we can actually see real opportunity out there for the producers. Because the things that Rounds brought up are things that are going to help decentralize a lot of what is caused the consolidation in the meatpacking industry, and I believe that very strongly. And I will tell you this: being on this call with Mike Rounds is just a beautiful thing for me, because now we can lock arms and we can go in a bipartisan way and kick the hell out of some people until we get these things across the line, and that's what we're going to do. As far as transportation and the livestock thing, I'm going to tell you, it's like a lot of things. It's education. Everybody wants the roads to be safe, and I want the roads to be safe too. And the roads will be safe, make no mistake about it. But the truth is when you're hauling live animals, it's a different problem. It's a different situation. These are live animals. You can't, as I said in my opening, you can't pull along the side of the road and take a nap. You got to be able to move them to their destination. And we can do it, and we have been doing it for years and years and years. And what my recommendation is if the folks out there that have a real problem with the safety of it, hook a safety study to any bill we put in. I guarantee I'm not afraid of that, because I know the truckers that haul those cattle, and they're the best in the business. And quite frankly, they'll come back and show that there isn't the problems out there that a lot of the folks that have safety concerns think there are. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Senator Rounds, did you want to tack on
just
there?
Very briefly. Look, John's right, but here's the way we got ourselves into this mess in the first place. Nationally, the big truck operations, they would love to run the little guys out of business, and they know that if they make everything double haul or tandems on it, they come out ahead, and they could care less about live haul guys. I mean, they just don't see it as part of their big market. So they came in and, oh, it sounds so good to be talking about the big rigs and how dangerous they are and everything, and we got to have 2 guys in them, and hours of service is such a big deal and all that. But what they forgot is the livestock haulers, as John said, they're not running 2 guys. These are small operators. They operate out of their back pocket in most cases, but they provide a hell of a service in the agricultural part of our economy. And look, they don't take into effect the fact that you may haul it to a livestock barn. You're not going to leave without a load going back out again. So what are you going to do? How do you get hours of service out of that? You're sitting waiting for the hauls to be coming up. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to head home and I'll come back when the hauls start again. It doesn't work that way. And yet they never took any of that into account at all. So Elaine Chao actually came in and sat down and allowed us to bring truckers in to explain to her how serious this was. And it's because we were able to get in front of the decision makers, that they were able to look back at that law and to make some rule modifications, interpretations to get us by this. But you can't count on whoever the next secretary is. John's right. We got to go back in and we got to fix this. But our battle is going to be Washington, D.C. lobbyists who are going to be talking safety and big haul and interstate transport. And to get an exception on this will be a major, major lift for us. And if we can get this thing done, man, it starts with having bipartisan support for it. And so, yeah, I agree with John. If we can just stay on top of this stuff, keep this bipartisan. There's other people that want to. Nothing happens in the Senate unless it's bipartisan, except Supreme Court nominees. And,
I wasn't going to bring that up, couldn't it? Senator Rounds.
I had to.
That was on the do not mention list. You know that. No, thank you both for that. Thank you both.
Other than that, nothing comes out of the Senate without a bipartisan movement. So this is good. And there's a lot of folks in rural areas that'll work with us.
Absolutely. No, great response there. And I appreciate the comments on bipartisanship. We've got, for folks who don't know, we've got a Republican and Democrat tonight on this live stream, and we're all singing from the same song sheet. So it's pretty incredible to be here and see that. But we've got this question that keeps popping up on the feed, and it's related to livestock mandatory reporting. The program expires on September 30th, which is, wow, just in a few days. So what is the plan here? I mean, what are we looking at when we look towards livestock mandatory reporting? What changes are needed? Can there be an extension? And obviously, how does that relate to the 5014 bill?
Look, John,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I know that it's an issue. I talked to Pat Roberts about it the other day. He gets it. I know that he was going to try to bring it in on some must-pass legislation as an amendment, because I don't think there's anybody out there that's fighting us on it, but it's got to go someplace. So it might be coming over in the CR. To be honest, I never even thought about it, or I would have looked it up on the CR to see if they've included it. John, do you know if it is or not?
No, I don't think it is, but once again, Mike, I can't say that for sure because I didn't look it up either. And I would tell you that I don't know that there's going to be a lot happening besides that CR between now and the election. But I do think we're going to have a lame duck session for sure, because the CR runs out the 11th of December. That gives us an opportunity, if it isn't in the CR, and it could be, by the way. They may extend it out just like they extended out the budget. If not, we'll be able to do something in the lame duck to fix the problem.
Yeah, and I don't know of any opposition to it. It's just a matter of finding something that's moving through. And I know that the chairman, Pat, was talking about the fact that he was hoping to have it included on that. If it's not, there are some other items. And I know, as John said,
Yep.
we're going to be back in session here. And I know right now they're also putting out a lot of individual, what we call hotlines, which is individual items that are not controversial, or people are testing them to see if there's any. Because in the Senate, if something is not controversial, and if it's unanimously agreed to, we don't even have to be there to vote on it. All they do is on one of our pro forma sessions, they'll stand up and say, you know, hey, look, this is coming through. We've run it by the hotline, and nobody's objecting to it. So I'd like to make a motion on the floor of the Senate that it unanimously pass. And if nobody there is there to object, then it'll pass out of the Senate that way, which is a unique thing to be able to do.
And Mike, that might be something that can be done if it hasn't already been done by Roberts or somebody, that it could be done next week.
Yeah, and it should come out of the Ag Committee in order to,
Yes, that's correct.
appropriately do so.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And I forgot to mention, Senator Browns, that came from one of your constituents, Johnny Kirsten's in Piedmont, South Dakota. Did I say that wrong? Piedmont.
Piedmont.
I'm a Michigan gal. I don't have the Dakota accent, but no, we're coming up on the top of the hour here, and I know we both have to get you guys on the way, but I think now I'd love to wrap up with just a single sentence, or as short as you can make it. What is the greatest threat facing American agriculture right now, and how do we turn that into an opportunity? I know we've touched on it quite a bit already, but if we can summarize it and leave folks with that take-home message.
Who do you want to go first, Leah?
John, you get to.
Well, there you go.
Damn it, Rounds. This is really hard because I'm telling you that we've got to have good trade bills. We've got to make sure that we can sell our market across state lines, and the bill that Rounds and King has is really important for that. I'm going to tell you that I think the biggest problem for the cattle industry, and it's the biggest industry for those of us that are raising grain or pulses or anything, is consolidation, and pork and chicken too. I mean, it's just consolidation. And I'm a capitalist. I believe in a capitalistic system. I think that when you have competition out there in the marketplace, things will work. And when you have a monopoly, or you have the kind of consolidation that creates a monopoly, which is I think where we're at in much of the agriculture business, then you don't get true market prices. And the people that end up get taken to the cleaners, there's two sets. There's the people who raise the product, that's us, and there's the people that buy the product, that's the consumer, and we both lose. And so I really hope that we can continue to work with with you guys, the producers that are on the ground, to get out there and do some things that will make a difference so that there's more competition in the marketplace. And it's why, and I'm going to go back to where I started. It is why the U.S. Cattlemen's Association is so very, very important. There's a lot of ag groups out there that represent agribusiness. You guys aren't one of them. You're ones that represent the people on the ground, and I value that a lot, because quite frankly, as my mother and father always taught me growing up, there are two things in this country that's made the United States of America great. It's family farm agriculture, and it's public education. And I'm telling you that both of those are being attacked right now, and I'm involved in both of them. And so I just want you guys to continue to advocate, continue to push, because quite frankly, it's so very, very important. The issues that you guys have in U.S. Cattlemen's are important issues for those of us in production agriculture. And it cuts across the board. And so get out there and push hard. You've got to be respectful, but you also have to tell people the truth that represents you in Washington, D.C. And I can tell you that, and this isn't brag, this is fact, Mike Rounds and I get it. And we understand that we're under some timelines here. We've got to get some stuff done. And we're going to fight to do that. And we need you there fighting right along as you have in the past. Continue to do that into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
John makes some really good points, and I'm not disagreeing with him at all. I guess I would also suggest this. We need to be able to speak with one voice in many ways to send the most powerful message we can on behalf of beef producers, just as an example. But also, I think we have to be able to share with the consumer good, solid information. So part of it's marketing, being able to market not just in terms of markets elsewhere outside the United States, sharing with consumers just how good our product really is, and that it's safe, and that we're proud of it, and that it's healthy. And I think that's going to continue to be challenged, as John had opened up with in his very first comments about, laboratory products that they're going to try to sell as real beef and so forth. And I think we've got to, as with one voice, let people know that we really do have the best products in the world, and we're proud of it, and we're going to market it that way. And they have to let us be able to market in that sort of a way, and to get that message to consumers. And I think that's going to be a real challenge over the next couple of years, and that we can do it environmentally appropriate. And I think that's going to be a big challenge for us as well.
Absolutely. And we didn't even quite get to alternative proteins tonight, but I think truth in labeling covers that. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have tonight. So thank you to all of our attendees for tuning in for USCA's Facts Only Friday. And thank you so much, Senator Tester and Senator Rounds, for sharing your Friday evening with us. If this were a normal year, we'd meet up in person, but we very much appreciate the time to visit virtually. But with that, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.